All right, peeps. How are we all doing today? How are we all doing today? Oh boy. Oh, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So last night we saw Billy Joe versus Canelo. We all saw what happened. If you didn't see it live, I'm assuming you probably seen it the next day. Oh boy. Oh, we got lots to talk about in this stream. Oh, we have a lot to talk about. So we get a few people in, get a few people locked in the chat. I will touch on Billy Joe versus Canelo. I will see what everyone thought. Um, First, my just generic thoughts on the fight, right? It was actually an entertaining fight to watch. It was competitive the whole way through. I think that early on for me, I think most people gave Billy Joe the first round. I thought Canelo nicked the first couple of rounds. And then Billy Joe, I said it then when I watched it live, and I'll say it again. It was like he needed to warm into the fight, if you know what I mean. So it was kind of like he started off slow, needed to get warmed in. Once he got warmed in, he was definitely having success in there against Canelo. Make no mistake about that. Some people like Garrett A. Davis had him way ahead. I didn't. I had Canelo winning at the time with the stoppage. But definitely Billy Joe was having more than his fair share of success in there. He definitely was. I see a lot of comments already. Let's have a look-see here. So, the Gypsy quitter, Billy Joe, no mass. The media is scared to call it a quit job. Didn't Dubois fight on with the same? So, when I watched that live, right, it was, from my opinion, what it looked like at the time was that Billy Joe just was nodding saying no. Now, Mark Tibbs has said that he called the time on it. That Billy Joe obviously didn't appeal that. But at the end of the day, I've never been in that situation. Most people have never been in that situation. I honestly can't say that I wouldn't have done the same thing because I don't know. I don't know what pain he was in, but apparently it's quite a serious fracture. It's not like a spot. Like, there's a big difference between a really bad swelling and fighting on with that and having broken orbital bones that need surgery. For example, if anyone has ever seen Dennis Lebedev versus Guillermo Jones, even for entertainment reasons, go and watch that fight because it's a very, very entertaining fight. It's a really, really fun fight to watch. But Lebedev's eye swelled up like a balloon, right? Bear in mind, that was a swelling, right? As I no fractures as far as I was aware. It was a really bad swelling, right? Now, he should have been pulled out because the swelling was grotesque. He looked like the Elephant Man in there. But that was a swelling caused by punches. When you're talking about broken orbital bones and stuff like that, that's very different because that really can have serious, long-lasting impacts on your eyesight. Billy Joe having surgery on multiple orbital fractures, won't be fighting until this time next year. Now, Billy Joe is probably out of action for a good year. He's probably out of action for a good year. I have to say that if someone gets it, like I said in that video, right, that I don't begrudge anyone who has an injury like that quitting. Because I think someone mentioned Kell Brook quit and someone said he didn't. Kell Brook did quit. But do I begrudge him that? No. I've never been in that situation where, there's multiple injuries to my eye, where, it could be an orbital bone, it could be anything. So I think that Billy Joe, if he'd had gone out, he could have been seriously hurt and it could have exasperated whatever injury he has further, because I believe it's quite severe. There's a couple, I guess, Dean here is saying multiple fractures, could have injured it quite severely. So I ain't got no issues with that. If that was the case, then time of the stoppage was perfect. Levels to boxing, even the Limo. Big up to G-Man and everyone in the chat. Big up to you, sir, every single time. You think Billy Joe will continue fighting? I messed up now, and even those paychecks won't be the same without the belt. I would imagine he's made enough money to retire now. It's going to be very interesting to see what Billy Joe does now, because I, for the longest time, have suspected that Billy Joe, he's already had one foot out the door prior to Canelo. I definitely think that Billy Joe, in many ways, I believe his best days may be behind him. I think that, I've said it once, I'll say it again. If there's one major criticism I have with Billy Joe, it's that he didn't push on from the Lemieux fight, because the momentum he had from that, like, bear in mind, you had Joe Rogan talking about it. You had so many people talking about the schooling he did on Lemieux. And we have to remember, Lemieux was tailor-made for Billy Joe. All right, he was. Whoa, someone's just giving me 20 quid. Who did that? Oh, big up to Karma. Karma, thank you so much for that. Oh my God, you didn't have to do it, but thank you so much. Evening, lads and lassies. Yes, evening, lads and lassies. Big up to you. Big up to you every time. Hashtag Gman rocks. Of course. Thank you for that. Wow, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. Holy, that's appreciate that. That's proper. That is. Thank you. Quit implies, big up the JDF, by the way, implies no heart. It's a loaded phrase and one that is not appropriate in this situation. Retired injured is more appropriate phrase. If I could go back, I would change that to that, to be honest with you, because definitely I don't begrudge someone retiring on their stool with an injury or anything like that. And look, I said it in the post-fight review. I said at the time, because I just went straight to record that after watching that fight. And I said, if there's a serious injury, which there clearly is, then absolutely the right thing. And I think that had they sent Billy Joe out for the next round, he would have definitely got stopped, in my opinion, in the next round. And it would have more than likely exasperated that already injured eye further. What I need to wonder now is that what is he going to do next? Like, is he going to carry on boxing? Is he going to have one foot out the door? Is he going to Eubank Jr.? He is loving this. You can just Eubank Jr. is absolutely loving this. You know, he really is having a feel like he's been calling out Canelo. I mean, Jesus, Canelo would absolutely beat the living crap out of Eubank Jr. Based on what I've seen in that Marcus Morrison fight, man, Canelo would absolutely take Eubank Jr.'s head clean off his shoulders. And Eubank Jr.'s got a good chin, but he ain't beating Canelo. I missed a load of comments, by the way, so I'll kind of catch up on them. Eye injuries are different to all other injuries. You can't take chances with the eye. No, of course, no. You see, who was it? Oh, there's been a few occasions. But there's been a few occasions where fighters have suffered detached retinas. Like, look at Sugar Ray Leonard. I think it was against Thomas Hearns, where he had the detached retina, which pretty much shortened his career. You know, there's been a few occasions where fighters have had detached retinas in sparring. And basically, what happens there is that they just have to just go and retire, basically, because if it's attached retina, you ain't fitting it. This wasn't, but the eye injuries are very different. They're very different. That's actually a very good question there. What did I think of the Soto versus Takayama stoppage? I watched that fight live. It was a fun little fight to watch. Lawrence Cole, there's a video on YouTube where it says Lawrence Cole, worst referee in boxing. That's what it says. It says Lawrence Cole, worst referee in boxing. And I try and defend Lawrence Cole from time to time and say he has put on some good performances as a referee, but that stoppage was absolutely ridiculous. Takayama was taking good shots in there, but he was never seriously hurt. He was buzzed a few times, but he was never hurt seriously. He never touched down. He wasn't taking a beating. Some people were saying this fight was kind of nip and tuck. That guy, what was the guy's name? Oh yeah, Edwin Sosa. You kind of wonder, was he getting a bit tired in there? And Lawrence Cole just randomly, like, it was random because, again, it wasn't like this guy was taking a hellacious beating and then he just stopped it. So Lawrence Cole, really, I mean, that was, people say Howard Foster. Even Howard Foster, I'm sure, would look at that stoppage and think, here, fuck that. You stopped that fight way too early. I mean, that was absolutely ridiculous from Lawrence Cole stopping that fight. Absolutely ridiculous, so it was. Saw someone say Lawrence Cole was ready to run them down the roads, down the ramp to stop the fight second time. But that was ridiculous. And Lawrence Cole, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been occasions where he's let fights go on. I'm nearly sure there has. I'm trying to think. But I'll give you an example of some of the things Lawrence Cole has done. Remember, Lawrence Cole said to Juan Manuel Marquez during a fight once that he'd seen the judges' scorecards and that he was ahead on all the scorecards. He missed so many low blows, like a ridiculous amount of low blows, when Orlando Salido fought Vasyl Lomachenko. He's done other things as well that are just absolutely crazy. So Lawrence Cole, terrible, terrible referee. Absolutely terrible. And that stoppage was ridiculous. Ridiculous. Hey, bud, hope you're okay. I'm brilliant. Missed you have late recent. I haven't done a proper live since last week, to be honest with you. Would like to see him carry on if the injury permits. Yeah, that's the question I have. Will he carry on with or without the injury? Because I'm sure if Billy Joe hadn't got that injury, I think Canelo would have won the fight anyway, right? I think he would have won it on points, more than likely, or maybe would have stopped Billy Joe late. But if he hadn't got that injury, I'd imagine Billy Joe's stock would have rose, had the injury not happened. So we need to, it would have been interesting to see where he went from there. Rematch, I'm sure. If he'd gone to the decision and that injury never happened, would have been interesting. Would have been interesting. You could have argued for a rematch or something. You never know. So I had to click on that. Eubank can go get fucked. He's below world class. The one thing that Billy Joe showed before the eye injury is that he's world class. Well, Billy Joe Saunders, in my opinion, that is, take the stoppage out of the equation. Take the eye injury out of the equation. He did way more better. He did way better in 8 rounds than Callum Smith could have done in 15 rounds, right? He done better than, wasn't hard, but Yildirim. He done better than that. So Billy Joe, in terms of Canelo's most recent fights, that was a very good fight. Very good fight. He done very well. So how would Eubank Jr. have done? To be honest with you, I reckon Eubank Jr. would have got absolutely starched in a couple of rounds. And I like Eubank Jr., but he is nowhere near this level. And him against Marcus Morrison, you could see in parts he was looked like Roy Jones in a sense of, not in terms of skill. It was like, how do I put it? It was like he was trying to look like Roy Jones, but it just didn't fit him. Eubank Jr. is more a pressure fighter. He's not an out-and-out boxer. And it was a very strange fight. It really was. Billy Joe needs to go away from the public eye, keep fit and stay sharp if he wants to come back. Oh, needs a year out of the public eye. Yeah, I think Billy Joe will probably come back and say, I'm going to rethink, regroup. And he needs to just basically do what you said there. Stay away from the public eye. Don't be doing any of these silly things. Like, I'm someone who finds some of the things Billy Joe does funny. Don't do silly things like that crackhead thing. That was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous when he did that. Like, that was kind of one where I looked and I was like, what are you thinking? What did you think of Carl Froch's commentary? I was hoping he was going to be left behind in the Sky Closet. He's already back tracking on his scorecards. My money on Billy Joe retiring. Yeah, I think maybe they did Carl Froch as maybe a trial, to be honest with you. I don't think they'll get him on permanently on DAZN. I think maybe that might have been just Carl Froch on a trial with them, because again, his commentary is not terrible, but it's not great either. I used to really not like Carl Froch until I started hearing Matthew Macklin. But yeah, I could see his scorecards were a bit all over the place. He didn't really, it's Carl Froch though. It's Carl Froch. But I'm wondering if that's just a trial. I don't know if they'll actually keep Carl Froch and guys like that on. You never know. Billy Joe would never got the result. Look at the scorecards. The scorecards were reasonably close, though. Like, I mean, I've seen a lot of people with 6-2 Canelo and, 4-3 Canelo, or 5-3 Canelo. So the scorecards were reasonably, like, some people might have had him ahead. I personally didn't. I had Canelo winning at the time with the stoppage. But, definitely you could make a case Billy Joe. I don't agree with Garrett A. Davis, where he said he had Billy Joe way ahead. I mean, I like this scorecard here that Jared has here. Rounds 1, 5, 6, 7, Billy. 2, 3, 4, 8, Canelo. The first round, that could be up in the air because I kind of was indifferent in that round. 5th round, 6th round. I gave the 7th round was a bit of a swing round. I gave that to Canelo. But I agree with that. I agree with your assessment there in terms of that scorecard. I can't really fault that. It was that kind of fight. Again, I've seen some people say that they had Billy Joe winning damn near every round, apart from the 8 and the 2nd. I was like, what? It's like, what? No. Madness. Even if it's Joe, big up to you every single time. I hope you're keeping well, my friend, and I hope everyone is keeping good there. We all doing well. I had to start this late because I had to look after someone. So I ended up having to play tennis. Well, just playing out in the garden with someone, but it was fun. So, it's all good here. It's all good here. Gee, man, how far up the way do you think Canelo can go? Do you think he could? No. I think that there comes a time, mate, where you could be vastly more talented. but the size of someone just is too much. And I think that Canelo is 5'8", generous. Lawrence Okolie is not as good as Canelo. He's not. But he is just so damn big that wouldn't work. At cruiserweight, do you know a cruiserweight I'd give Canelo a shot against? Actually, no. Even that might be tough. But someone like Machunu, if he beats Makabu, the reason why Machunu is very short for cruiserweight, very short, but he is a very slick southpaw. If you've ever seen Thabisa Machunu fight, you'll know what I mean. Very good boxer, very slick southpaw. He would give Canelo fits when I think about him from a style point of view. In fact, he'd actually give Canelo a horrible time in there. I think light heavyweight is about as far as Canelo will go. I reckon what they'll do, I think they'll try and do Caleb Plant in September. And I think Canelo beats Caleb Plant personally. I've never really been too keen on Caleb Plant. He's an okay fighter, but I don't think he's as good as people make him out to be. I think he'd go through Caleb Plant. And what I reckon would happen then is they'll do one more fight at super middleweight. They'll probably try and do the Golovkin trilogy at super middleweight for all the marbles. That's what I reckon they'll do. An undisputed super middleweight fight with Triple G as the trilogy for all the marbles. That's what I reckon they'll do. I think that's probably the plan that Team Canelo have. Get undisputed at 168 and then have the Triple G trilogy fight for undisputed at 168. I reckon that's what they might do. Because they've never had undisputed between the two of them, because it was, I don't even think it was. I think it was Canelo wasn't the champion when he fought Triple G either time. Eubank Canelo will be a very fun fight. Eubank Jr. has a chin, power, very fit. Would love to see what happens when Canelo pressures him. I think Canelo would beat the living crap out of Eubank Jr. And I don't see, Eubank Jr. has always been looking for that fight. I remember when he signed with PBC. PBC were talking about him versus Charlo. And he'd briefly mention Charlo, and then he'd go straight back to Canelo. And this is when he was with PBC. It's very rare you hear PBC guys call out other guys. But Eubank was like, oh, Charlo. And then he's like, Canelo. I want Canelo. We want Canelo. So he's been dying for that fight. I remember a time when Chris Eubank Sr. was convinced. I remember when Eubank Jr. fought Quinlan. And that win looks not as good now. But I remember when he fought Quinlan, and they had Andre Ward doing, I think, analysis for that fight. And Eubank Sr. was coming out saying he just cannot see how someone like Andre Ward would ever beat Junior. Can you imagine? Could you imagine what Andre Ward would have done to Eubank Jr.? That would have been a schooling to end all schoolings. And Eubank Sr. was like, I cannot see how Andre Ward could beat my son. Click on, yeah. Rather Froch than Bellew, Nelson, or Coldwell at the zone. Out of all those names, give me Carl Froch any day. Harley Quinn, no, thank you. Keep Harley Quinn in Sky. Dave Coldwell is like a manager. Like, he's a proper manager and a promoter. Well, you know, Dave Coldwell's background is in promoting. So when you hear him bigging up his fighters, obviously, you would expect the trainer to do that. But Dave Coldwell has a promotion experience. So when he's bigging up all of his fighters, he's really doing that as like he's trying to promote them at the same time, because that's what his background essentially is in, promoting. You know, that's what Dave Coldwell used to do. So whenever I hear Dave Coldwell's not the worst in the world now, to be fair, at commentating. But definitely probably Carl Froch out of the three. If they had to take someone to be a commentator on the zone, I take Andy Lee. He has moments where he doesn't do himself justice, but for the most part, he is really, really good. Like, he's given a few dodgy scorecards at times, but other than that, he is a good commentator. So if I had to pick someone for the zone UK, definitely Andy Lee. I'd like him to get Barry Jones, but they're not going to get Barry Jones in. I think Barry Jones is happy enough with MTK, so he'll probably be stuck staying with MTK. I said it's levels till the stoppage. It was competitive the whole way through, though, mate. That's one thing you got to say. It was definitely competitive the whole way through. Thoughts on Ebony Bridges going the last 3 rounds with Shannon Courtney with a bad eye and no vision, and many males world champions have wanted out. Just shows how tough she is and deserves credit. Yeah, she fought with the eye swollen, all right. But bear in mind, there's a big difference, as I said, between a swollen eye and actual having like orbital bone damage. So there's a huge difference between that. So whilst, yeah, look, fair, look, I've seen it before. I'll see it again. People fight with badly swollen eyes. There's a big difference between that and having actual, like, possibly nerve and bone damage. There's definitely a difference between the two. G-Man and Canelo. G-Man's Roxy Canelo way more focused for Billy Joe fight. Yeah, look, Canelo knew what... I thought Canelo looked better against Callum Smith than he did against Billy Joe. And actually, as I said there, Karma's spot on with that. A swollen eye and bone damage, they are two different things. Like I said this at the start of the stream. Look at Dennis Lebedev versus Guillermo Jones. All right, that's a swelling. In fact, what I'll do is I'll show you the difference between a swelling and a bad eye. Dennis. I'll show you what a swelling looks like, and I'll compare that to what a bad damaged eye looks like. So, right there, 2 seconds. Yeah, we're doing this. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. So, I bring this up here on screen. So that right there is Dennis Lebedev's eye. Let me know if that's working for you guys as well, by the way. Is it working? It should be. Yeah, it is. That's Dennis Lebedev's eye. Now, that's swollen, right? So that's a badly swollen eye, okay? Now, that's very different to an eye with orbital damage. So that is just a really, and look at it. He looks like the Elephant Man. That's a really bad swelling, right? And look at it. It's obviously cut pretty bad as well. So it's a really bad swelling. But that's not going to have any, like, it took him a while, I'm sure, for it to come down. But it's very different between bone damage. So they're two very different things. Let's look at Daniel Dubois' eye. So we'll go Daniel Dubois' eye. Now, that doesn't look near as bad. But I'm telling you now, that caused way more damage than what happened to Lebedev. Even though they don't look near as bad, obviously Lebedev's look way worse. But there's definitely a lot more. That's definitely a lot worse in terms of what was going on underneath than what was going on with Lebedev. So I thought I'd just point that out there for anyone to see. The difference between the two. The Lebedev one. And by the way, I'm just going to recommend it. If you've never seen Dennis Lebedev versus Guillermo Jones, right? If you've never seen it, go and watch that fight. You can get the Box Nation commentary if you find it on Daily Motions. Oh my God, what a fight. That to me was 2013 fight of the year. Lebedev versus Jones. Oh my. The only thing that taints it is I think Guillermo Jones, I don't know, did he either miss the drugs test or he failed the drugs test, one or the other. But oh my God, that fight was insane. 2013 fight of the year. Dennis Lebedev, Guillermo Jones. Holy shit. Holy shit, what a fight. If you've never watched it, when we finish this stream, go on, watch that. Type it into YouTube. Go and watch it. Hell of a fight. Oh my good Lord. It's literally, Guillermo Jones is as slow as molasses, but he just, every shot Lebedev hits him with just bounces off his chin. And Jones just hits Lebedev with uppercut and right hand after right hand. That eye was smashed after, I think, 2 or 3 rounds. Like, really bad. And it was crazy because the referee just let him keep walking, let him keep fighting. And I think come the end, I don't know if it was fixed or something like that, because I think they had I think Jones was winning the fight, but I think they all had Lebedev ahead. And by the end of the 11th round, Dennis Lebedev was pretty much exhausted, and he went down more so from fatigue. And it was a fast count. The referee fast counted Lebedev out there because I think deep down he knew that this fight needed to be stopped quite a while ago. In fact, I actually think Costa Zoo was the corner man for Lebedev in that fight, if memory. I haven't watched the fight in a while. I'm pretty sure Costa Zoo was in Lebedev's corner for that fight, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was at that fight. I could be wrong, but there's a big difference. He practically walked into that punch that ended the fight. Yep. Oh, big up to Jake. Oh, do you know what, man? I was thinking of doing a video on that. I was going to get Dan to make me a thumbnail and just do wake me up when we get there. Because I'm sick to death of hearing it. It's either this week or it's next week. I don't want to do any more videos on AJ versus Fury. I'm sick of it now at this stage. At the end of the day, you had 70,000+ fans in an arena. You had God knows how many people watching on the zone. And what? And that's the perfect time to announce it if it's good to go. And no. So I've given up. I've given up on that. Wake me up when we get there with AJ Fury. That's the way I'm looking at it now at this stage, mate. Kate Abdul, yeah, she is pretty as fuck. Was rocking a stripper hair last night, pink highlights. Please comment, would you take her to the champagne room? Hell yeah. Yeah, Kate Abdul looked unreal last night. Big up to Kate Abdul. Do you know what channel Josh Taylor's fighting on? Fight TV. Someone's going to have to help me with this, right? If anyone in the chat has Fight TV, I need to know, right? Because I've heard some people say that you pay the subscription to Fight TV, but you still have to pay for the pay-per-views. As in, like, you pay your monthly subscription, but like for Taylor Ramirez, you'd have to pay a further 10 quid on top of that. Is that true? Or is that just for like really big fights? Because I don't have Fight TV yet, but I'll get it. If it's 10 quid a month for Taylor Ramirez, I'll get it. But I don't want to pay twice for a fight if I'm already paying a subscription. Oh, it is true. Oh, really? Ugh. Well, I'll consider it. But you could always watch a cracking little, you know where I'm going with that. First time felt like the zone hit the mainstream. It was brilliant. I thought the quality from the zone was fantastic in terms of the production. I thought the production from the zone was absolutely fantastic. So it was, really, really happy with it. I think the zone are making strides. I think they're doing very well, the zone. So for me, I was real happy with it. I was right. Yes, Costazu was indeed in Lebedev's corner. I had a feeling it was him. I had a feeling he was. I knew he was at it. And I would have thought Costa. I reckon that fight because that fight was on, you see, back in the early 2010s, up until about 2016, those Russian cards, I think Rybinski promoted them. Those Russian cards were absolutely brilliant because they used to put like Povetkin, Lebedev, Kudryashov. I remember the first time I watched Dmitry Bivol, that was on the undercard of Povetkin Whack, which had Latif Coyote versus Denis Lebedev. It had Ola Duradola versus Rakim Shakayev, had Kudryashov versus Ola Duradola, and it had Dmitry Bivol. It was like those cards were lit. And that was on the undercard of, no, that was the main event. Povetkin fought, what was his name? What was the guy's name? I forget. He was meant to fight Deontay Wilder in 2017, but he failed the drugs test. I forget the guy's name, Warzetsky or something like that. He wasn't a good heavyweight. But that was where I reckon they had a fix in there because that fight, if it was in the UK or US, would have been stopped instantly with that swelling. But they let that fight carry on. Yeah, I think he turned pro as a welter. He did turn pro as a welter. He was only ever stopped once was Guillermo Jones, and that was at 154 pounds. He had a draw with Johnny Nelson. I thought he won that fight, to be honest with you. Johnny Nelson was fairly boring to watch. Wasn't much in it, but I thought he beat Johnny Nelson to Jones. It's mad to think that he went from 154 pounds and he only won a world title at 200 pounds. He 2 fights at heavyweight before retiring, did Guillermo Jones. Hell of a fighter he was. Definitely. Remember a Russian card on a Tuesday at starting time 5 in work and Unreal from box. Oh, those cards are brilliant over in Russia. But I remember when it was the heyday was when they had Povetkin, Lebedev, Kudryashov was up and coming. They had Troyanaski. They had a lot of good fighters, and they were putting them all on the same card. I mean, like, imagine. And the thing was, they were putting them in competitive fights, for the most part anyway. Well, you could say competitive. But I suppose you could say, like, I mean, Ola Duradola versus Kudryashov was competitive. Shakayev versus... Well, Shakayev got knocked out by Ola Afolabi was the guy, actually. And then he fought Maxim Vlasov. So they were putting these guys in real 50-50 fights. I mean, you want to talk about 50-50 fights, they were 50-50 fights. They were what you call 50-50 fights. That was set up for the zone. Even the commentary was better. Yeah, it was very. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant from the zone. They really know that. They really know exactly that. They need to make inroads, and they're doing it now. I think that the first couple of years for the zone was kind of maybe just to kind of get the feet wet. Get kind of acclimatized to everything. Now I think they're doing absolutely fantastic work. The zone. Really, really pleased with it. Really, really pleased. I thought the camera work was brilliant. Everything was brilliant on it. I thought it was very good. I'll read that in 2 secs, but I'll read this one here. Julius Ndongo knocked someone out on the card. Yeah, he knocked out Troyanovsky. That was on the undercard of Lebedev versus Gassiev. I remember watching that fight live, and I couldn't believe what happened. I was just like, because I think I knew about Troyanovsky. I knew he was like a good amateur. He was a big puncher. He was undefeated at the time, and I knew about him. I'd seen his fight against that Argentinian guy. I forget the guy's name. The guy was 48-0. Who Troyanovsky beat twice. But I remember him against Ndongo, and I knew nothing about Ndongo. And one shot, one punch, and it was a crazy shot. But yeah, one punch knockout. That was crazy. Eddie Hearn and Kella Sauerland are really pissed off at Michael Hunter. Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? So he missed the VADA test for the WBC. Now, in some cases, you'd say that's understandable because let's face facts, he's fighting IBF sanctioned fights. He doesn't need to theoretically doesn't need to do it. But it makes you wonder what's going on with Michael Hunter. It does. I like Michael Hunter as a fighter. I think he's very good. And I think there's a lot of heavyweights I pick him to beat. I'll put it like this. If they announce tomorrow Dylan White versus Michael Hunter, I'm putting money down on Michael Hunter to win that fight. But against Turgevich, I think stylistically Turgevich is very different. But they're seriously pissed. It's not a good look, considering Michael Hunter was calling out every heavyweight under the sun. He's calling out every heavyweight under the sun. For him to now go no further with this, it was about the purse. That's actually a good point. I've seen Hatman's video on it. I did see Hatman's video on that. And yeah, they were saying that for the money they were getting, well, I'm assuming it could be this, but for the money that was being talked about, was it worth going through with it? Because they were talking about something like 300 and something grand for Hunter. Whereas I'm sure if he fought, put it like this, right? If he fought Dylan White for an interim title, he'd be making 7 figures. Definitely. Maybe they just felt Hrgovic wasn't worth it. G-Man has a poster of Katie Taylor on in his bedroom. Do I have a poster of Katie Taylor in the bedroom? Not that I can see anyway. Not that I can see anyway, mate. Not in the bedroom anyway. Not that I can see. I think Canelo was on something too. He's not the only one. Tom Saunders' juicy beef comments are probably accurate. I reckon, Tom there. I reckon, Joe, the majority of top athletes are. I reckon the majority of them are. I reckon the juicy beef might be exactly true, but it might be true for a lot of fighters. I reckon it might be true for a lot of fighters. So we need to wait and see. At the end of the day, you'll never really know whilst they're cash cows. I'd say, like, imagine AJ lost to Fury, and then he lost again, and then he suffered a shock loss against someone like, say, Michael Hunter or someone like that. I wouldn't be at all shocked if all of a sudden, you're hearing VADA say, AJ tested positive for this, that, and the other, or same with Fury. Although I think Fury, he'd probably be more likely to retire, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. You can't blame them for being pissed off. Yeah, I think because they kind of feel like it wasted their time. Going through all that just to say at the end, the last minute, no, I don't want it. I see the thing about that is, right, is that these drug testing agencies, you have to imagine, although they might say, oh, we're this, we're that, you have to imagine that they're not going to be 100%. You know what? People have prices. We've seen that time and time again with these guys. They really do. I've seen that. What did I think of Demetrius Andre's outburst and his shirt disability show? I've seen that. I like Demetrius Andre. I do. I wouldn't mind seeing him against Canelo. I always felt that Demetrius Andre would beat Billy Joe. I think Demetrius Andre is very talented. I always felt that Demetrius Andre would beat Billy Joe. I'd like to see him fight Canelo. And I think that one of the reasons why Canelo was saying, like, who have you fought? Who have you fought? Well, people just don't seem to want to fight me. I think Demetrius Andre is a good fighter. I really do. I think he's a very good. Well, you can go on my chat. For the longest time, I said I felt Demetrius Andre is a very good fighter. I think that he does have talent. Do I think he beat Canelo? No. But I definitely think he'd make it awkward. Demetrius Andre is so awkward. It's effective. You know that when you look at him, you're just thinking, this guy is so awkward. But he's definitely effective. Oh, he really is effective. People, I'm just going to ask this really, really quickly, right? We've got 88 people in the chat and only 27 likes. If you could, please smash the like button if you don't mind. Canelo swearing in English is funny. It is funny. You have to say it. It really is funny. I think what was it he was saying? He's like, who the fuck are you? My friend. Who are you? Who are you, my friend? Canelo swearing is funny. It is. Canelo is funny. Hunter has a fantasy that he's due big person on the back of beating Bacoli. Yeah, Jesus. I mean, he obviously, maybe it's the fact that he's used to getting some decent paydays, because I'd imagine he got a decent payday for fighting Povetkin. Right? I'd imagine he got a fairly decent payday for that. Maybe he just feels that if he's on these big shows or these big cards, he should be getting more money than what he's been getting. I'd imagine that's maybe the case, because, why call out all these guys if you're saying, like, oh, I'm so willing to fight these, and then, not go through with it? Yeah, the money can be one thing, but still, it is a bit crazy. Canelo getting a bit arrogant lately. Canelo, I think, has always had a bit of arrogance towards him. I think now we're just seeing it. He's been fighting top level guys for so many years. I think there's always been a bit of arrogance there. Do you remember when he fought Chavez Jr. and it was fought at, I think, 164.5, and they said that for every pound Chavez Jr. was overweight, he'd have to donate some of his paycheck to Canelo. I think it was when Canelo fought Baldomir, and I think Baldomir, they had to agree on a different weight because Baldomir was too heavy, and they offered, like, Canelo X amount of money from Baldomir's purse. And I remember HBO were publicly saying Canelo turned it down. Well, he wouldn't turn it down now. 30-year-old Canelo is different from 20. He wouldn't turn down that money now. Yeah, consider the amount of top 10 heavyweights who failed drugs tests or strong XJs the last few years: AJ, Fury, White, Ortiz, Povetkin. Well, to be fair, out of all those heavyweights you've mentioned, AJ's the only one without being popped. Fury with the coke and the other thing, White with the Jack 3D, Ortiz with the blood pressure, Povetkin with the Ostarine and the Meldonium. So I reckon there's a good few more. I do. I reckon there's a good few more, to be fair. Yeah, Canelo sounds funny when he talks like that, He really just, yes, Golovkin, you are next, my friend. You are next, my friend. It is funny. The camera quality of the Zone was class last night. Couldn't believe it. Probably the highest production I've seen in ages. Yeah, the production for that show was absolutely brilliant from the Zone. Some of the things they've done, like in their production over the past, has not been great. It's been pretty poor. But last night it was absolutely fantastic. I planned on going to sleep and waking up for the fight. That didn't happen. I just ended up staying up through the whole way through the card. I nearly went to sleep watching that Conway fight because that wasn't exactly entertaining. But once we got into that Soda fight, man, I was hooked. And I only got like 3 hours kipped this night because I went to bed about 6 and I was awake all by 9:30. So I didn't get much. I feel absolutely fine though today. Can't turn down an IBF eliminator. They call the mandatories. Yeah, the IBF are very good for doing that. They are. They're probably, if you get a mandatory position with the IBF, yourself you're getting that shot sooner or later. It's different if you get like a WBA shot. You don't know whether you're going to get the super champion, the regular champion, what you're going to get. But with the IBF, they're very good for enforcing their mandatory for the most part. Because they've even stripped Canelo, if you remember that. Yeah. Do you remember Marquez when he fought Pacquiao in the rematch or the fourth fight, and he was refusing VADA test and he had the acne all over his back? And Marquez was always a decent puncher, but he was never a one punch knockout artist like that. I mean, that was bizarre. And then he fought Bradley, and I think what was it when he fought Bradley? Was there accusations then as well, or something like that? Something weird. But Kate Abdul, yeah, Kate Abdul was like 40, isn't she? She's definitely not in her 30s. I think she's like 40, Kate Abdul. But yeah, I never heard of Kate Abdul until she started with DAZN. I never heard of her before that. But yeah, Kate Abdul is cool. Kate Abdul and Fino boxing. They're my two favorite females in boxing, definitely. Still think Andrade beats Canelo. He's not what's that say? Mediocre. He's not. Oh, sorry. And Liam Williams. I don't know if Demetrius Andre would beat Canelo Alvarez, but he definitely give him a hard fight. I think put it like this, right? I'm going to say this. I think Demetrius Andre is better than Billy Joe. Personally, in my opinion, I think he is. Kate Abdul was on Sky a few years ago before she went to Fox Sport. I never heard of Kate Abdul until she started with DAZN. And people were telling me, check out this Kate Abdul one. Oh, yeah, she's pretty, definitely. As I said, her and Fino boxing, they're my two favorites. You know, Fino boxing. And Fino boxing is not a bad interviewer, to be fair. She's actually quite a good interviewer, to be fair. You know, you listen to her interviews, no problem. Does anyone remember when Roman Gonzalez was interviewed by Fino boxing? And bear in mind, he's only about 5'3". The poor lad was fucked before he even started. Kate Abdul is 39. In other words, she's young. Well, she's young by certain people's standards, but she's what, 12 years older than me? So yeah, think I'm shit out of luck on that one, lads. Even watching the fight on the DAZN app was decent. Yeah, what I did was I streamed. Well, I didn't stream. I watched it on the DAZN app, but I'm able to hook it up to my TV, which is fine because it Bluetooth straight to your TV, which is brilliant. So I was able to just chill in bed, watch the DAZN, and then go and make the post fight. So I love the DAZN app. I wonder when they're going to hike the price up. I'd say, because I actually want to know when Eddie Hearn is going to announce the shows for DAZN, you know, because he only has, correct me if I'm wrong, he only has until May, end of May, announced for Matchroom shows. He's apparently got a show planned in June because Sky and Eddie Hearn have two shows left. So they have the Watsy show this weekend, which I'm not really excited for because it's just kind of one of them kind of there you go kind of fight cards where there's not really anything on it. The last Watsy card he had was great. Well, it wasn't great, but it had names on it. But this one's just kind of like, they were meant to have Chantel Cameron on it, weren't they? Oh, they were meant to have Terry Harper on it, but she got injured. Then there's meant to be one in June. And that's Eddie Hearn and Matchroom's last one with Sky. So we have to wonder who they're going to announce for that. They'll probably announce it in the next week, who they're going to have on that show. But then you'd imagine it'll be Fight Camp. Because Fight Camp will happen in, as Ben says there, yeah, you'd imagine that Fight Camp would happen in July. And hopefully we can get fans in. I'd love to go over to one of those fight camps. So I'd imagine that's when they're going to do it. Probably come what, July. We need to see what fights he announces for them. I seen Headingley refuse Josh Warrington to host like his rematch with Lara because apparently Eddie Hearn wanted to get Katie Taylor on the undercard. That would have been a decent little scrap undercard. No, Josh Warrington and Katie Taylor in Headingley. That would have been decent. That would have actually been quite decent. Am I the only one who still thinks Josh Kelly versus Conor Benn would be a great fight? No, I'd like to see it as well. I think that would be a very good fight. I think that you have to look at it from a stylistic point of view. But you got to wonder how badly damaged is Josh Kelly. Because Josh Kelly really... I think Josh Kelly bought into his own hype too much. And I think that he just went... I think that loss will hit him hard. Like, imagine Conor Benn lost in that similar fashion to Avanesian. I don't think it would hit him as hard as it would Josh Kelly. because Josh Kelly really let himself kind of believe the hype, if you know what I mean. So I'd say for Josh Kelly, it's probably going to hit him hard. I see J Dev's comment, but for some reason it's not showing up on here. It's a G-man chasing pussy and views. That's boo. That's a Coogan move. Pussy and view. I think Prince Patel said that to him in their interview. Good news. I won a few quid on Canelo in the 8. Bad news. I got just about every other result wrong in the prediction league. Yeah, I had a bit of a mare of a week as well. I picked Liam Smith to win that fight on points. That was a close fight. Thought Liam Smith just nicked it, but there with that referee and that Liam Smith fight was BS. The amount of things he was letting that guy, I can't pronounce the guy's name, get away with. It was crazy. How do you think this fight would have been if it had been in front of 100K in Wembley? I don't think it would have. Well, Billy Joe wouldn't have got booed. But I see in the UK, they very seldom tend to boo the away fighter, if you notice that. You know, like if there was, say, 100,000 fans there and it was Canelo, they very seldom boo the away fighter. So I reckon it probably would. Canelo wouldn't have probably got the rapturous reception that he would have got. But it's very rare that you hear them boo the away fighter. I know they did with Povetkin a little bit when he fought Joshua, but that was really it. That's really the only time I can remember an away fighter getting booed was when Povetkin, and I think they kind of gave Povetkin a bit of respect come at the end because he put up a good performance. So that's really it. I don't remember them really booing many fighters in the UK. So yeah, I think it would have been the same. Simple as maybe it would have been slightly more in favor of Billy Joe, but I think it would have been exactly the same, to be honest. Fight camp will be tasty this year. It will be. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. I reckon we're going to get some really, really good fights on it. You know, I wonder what. See, fight camp was great last year because it culminated in Povetkin versus White, which was so funny. It was like people were saying, imagine Dylan White getting knocked out in Eddie Hearn's backyard and then boom. But I reckon in fight camp, we'll probably get Campbell Hatton on one of them. Not headlining, but we'll definitely get Campbell Hatton on one of the fight cards. We'll need to see, probably get Fowler versus some, who we get? Yeah, Fowler. You know yourself how these fight cards go. We get Babbage back probably. Thoughts on Terry Harper breaking her hand before her upcoming unification fight at 24? How frequent will her hand injury? Or at 24, how much will frequent hand injury stop her career progress? Yeah, it's a worry for Terry Harper because she injured her hand in her last fight as well. And this is a bad injury. I've heard they had to fracture the wrist to put pins in it. So it's a worry at 24. She may need to look at changing up a few things. Like she may need to just change the gloves she uses, because I'm telling you now, if you're noted for having hand trouble, you might want to just take a plunge and just wear a pair of winning gloves. They might not be the comfiest, they might not be the best in terms of punching, but they'll keep your hands safe. I hope it doesn't hurt her progress too much, but it is a worry when she's injured her hand twice in the space of a couple of months. And they seem quite bad injuries. So is it something that maybe she's just got brittle bones in her hands? I don't know. Is she hitting maybe too hard for her bone structure? I don't know. But it's a worry with Terry Harper. I was looking forward to that fight as well because it was a unification. And the girl was undefeated. I think she was from South Korea. The girl she was fighting, or somewhere in that region. So, yeah. I was looking forward to that fight. Prince Patel's new YouTube channel is a good watch. Very good and very honest and good. Yeah. I got that actually in my recommended feed, but I knew it was Prince Patel, but I didn't watch it. I'll have to give it a look and see what Prince Patel is saying. See what he's doing. Coogan was getting annoyed with Prince in their last interview. Yeah. I'd say Tyen Boot was sipping away on Echo Falls, loving that interview. Prince Patel and, Coogan. I was Tyen Boot, man. Funny as hell. Determined to try me some Echo Falls just to see what it's like. Hey G man, it's good evening from Scotland. Always thought Canelo would win, but Saunders gave a good account of himself to the eye injury. Canelo is impossible to have a strategy for. You see, Canelo is so good at adapting. And that's one thing you'll know about great fighters, is that they're able to adapt. You'll see fighters who are good, but if things aren't going a certain way, they tend to kind of get a bit all over the place. But Canelo was able to adapt to Billy Joe. But you could see in the mid rounds when Billy Joe was having like rounds 5 and 6, for my money, Canelo was noticeably frustrated in those rounds. For me, it was apparent that he was getting frustrated. So, like I said, we need to just see. Canelo is good, but we need to see someone who can box a bit, but can also maybe bang a bit. I wonder how that would go. I'm thinking of Bivol. I'm thinking how Bivol would do against Canelo because I think that would be an interesting fight. UK fans love great fighters no matter what they're from. Yeah, because you see, Billy Joe was getting booed from the get-go. He was getting booed in there from the get-go. Whereas if that had been in the UK and Canelo was the away fighter, and, you know, he wouldn't be getting booed. The UK fans are normally quite good with the away fighter, irrespective of where they're from and irrespective of who they're fighting. I think against someone like AJ, and I mean this a lot, that was before AJ lost to Ruiz, a lot of those fans were not boxing. A lot of those people were just glory seekers who would just boo someone because, oh, hey, we look like, I've told this story once, I'll say it again. I remember a guy was, well, this was about 2 years ago. This was like before AJ lost to Ruiz, where he got in a picture with Anthony Joshua on holiday, and he was acting like this was him and AJ were best buds, and I was like, do you know when he's fighting? No, I don't know. I don't know when he's fighting. Don't know who he fights. I just know I love him, and I just know me and him. We'll have to meet up sometime. Like, have you ever seen him? He probably wouldn't even know who you are if you pointed that picture out. So a lot of these guys weren't boxing fans. So when they hear like someone like Povetkin from Russia, the first thing is to just boo them. Do you remember when Andy Ruiz weighed in the first fight, and they were shouting, "You fat bastard"? I was like, these aren't boxing fans. These are just glory seekers. I remember I done a video after AJ lost to Ruiz, and I stuck a screenshot of some comments that were left about Anthony Joshua, and they were people saying, "I only follow boxing because of Anthony Joshua. Now he's lost. I'll never watch boxing again." And I was like, these are not boxing fans. No matter what they are, and I know people will be like, "We need the casuals." Yeah, we do. But they're not boxing fans. They're people who are just hopping on a bandwagon. And the minute AJ lost, they were just like, "Oh, I don't need to watch boxing anymore. He's lost." So I was like, right. Matthew Hatton has put in the best effort out of all the Brit fighters against Canelo. Ironic or what? He probably has, actually, now that I think about it. Matthew Hatton went to 12 rounds. Ryan Rhodes got stopped in the 12th. Amir Khan put in a good effort, was having success against Canelo. Billy Joe, Callum Smith didn't really try. Liam Smith did. Liam Smith is the best out of the Smith brothers, in my opinion. Even though Callum's had the better career, Liam Smith is the real warrior out of them. With Taya and Buddha, God only knows. I wouldn't hold my breath for that. Yeah. I remember I asked him about Michelle Joy Phelps, and he put on Michelle's accent. He was like, "Yeah, when I interviewed him, he told me he was a really big fan." I was at oh really? He got booed badly, but got a huge round of applause at the end. Yeah, I never understood. I think it was really only like, I'm not a knock on AJ, but I think it was because a lot of them, just anyone who fought AJ just gave him the booing treatment. I think if it was now, or if it was someone else, it'd be different. Like, I'm sure if Josh Warrington had fought Mauricio Lara, and there had been fans in the original, even in the rematch, he won't get booed. He'll probably get cheered, win or lose, because, you know, most of the time the UK fans are really good. Round 9, oh, he would have got stopped in that round, mate. Definitely, he definitely would have got. If they'd let him out for round 9, he would definitely have got stopped. I reckon, 100%. How do I think of Prime Ward that won? Oh, I think Ward would beat Canelo. That Andre Ward beats Canelo, definitely. I'm not saying Canelo has no chance, but that Prime Andre Ward, who won the Super 6, for me, he beats Canelo Alvarez. He beats him on points. That Andre Ward, and Ward did break rules in there. He did. But I don't think, like, Carfrog should make you believe that, you know, Andre Ward was, you know, this, that, and the other. Andre Ward could be reckless at times with his head. He could be, yes, he could be dirty in spots, but Andre Ward would try and break you down on the inside. And I think that's kind of where he ended up kind of getting a bit kind of all over the place because it could just get messy. But Andre Ward was skilled, you know. Andre Ward, although he didn't primarily fight on the outside, he could fight on the outside. His jab was very good. His jab was amazing, you know, when he used it. Because Andre Ward, I think, he's naturally left-handed, but he fights, or what he fought when he was fighting, he fought orthodox. Because his right hand, apart from the Kovalev fight, never really had much on it. And I think that Andre Ward would, because Andre Ward could switch as well. And I think that he would have beaten Canelo Alvarez, definitely. I think physical, people don't talk about Ward's physical strength. Would be too busy for Canelo, I think. Well, Ward physically is very strong. People don't talk about that. Ward is very physically, especially at 168, very physically strong. Now, very, very physically strong is Andre Ward. So for me, I think he would have beaten Canelo, definitely. I think he would have beaten him on points. And I think he would have done it quite comprehensively, if I'm actually telling you the truth. I think Andre Ward was fantastic. Prime Andre Ward was just... At 168, who did he beat? Kessler, Froch, Abraham, Saki Abika. You know, Ward was just phenomenal. He really was. I always think Ward would have beat Calzaghe as well. Prime for prime. It would have been a great fight. It would have been a close fight, but if you had to, I would have. And I wouldn't say Calzaghe's no chance. He definitely did. But prime for prime, I would have given Ward just the edge. I think he would have just found a way. See, Ward was never the most athletic. All right. He was never the most athletically gifted, never even that fast. But he just had that boxing brain. That's the best way. He had that boxing brain. He knew where he was at all times, and he would just outthink his opponent, use tactics and just outmatch them. Not necessarily outskill them, just outthink them. Canelo knew the uppercut would win him the fight. He was trying to land it a lot. Yep. The uppercut for me from early on was key for Canelo. And we want to see... I wouldn't mind seeing that fight next, to be honest. I think it'd be a great fight. August 14th. You see, they were talking about July. And if they wanted it in July, you'd be announcing it around now. So if we're looking at August, interesting. We'll wait and see about that. I'm just kind of thinking, wait up when we get there, because I'm just sick of hearing it. Every other week, it's like, every other goddamn weekend. It's next week. They do Echo Falls and strawberry and kiwi flavor. Try that one as you're a Blue Wicket guy. The problem is, mate, I can't get Echo Falls in Ireland. Nowhere does it here. And nowhere in the UK will deliver it. It's time boxing fans get over the L. Yeah, that's a lot of fighters. They just want to protect the L or the O. That's all it is with a lot of fighters, which is annoying at the end of the day. Like, I mean, look at Derek Chisora, still fighting on pay-per-view. He's 11 losses. I think AJ inherently brings in a lot of casuals. So people who comment, go to his fights, tend to do it more just for the spectacle or because people they know are interested. Yeah. You know, a lot of it is people. And see, I don't really mind the casuals, to be honest with you. I've never bothered me. It's only when they start coming out with, like, you know, bollocks and saying this, that, and it's only when they start giving fighters shit that they don't even know. And like booing a fighter because he's fighting or calling a Ruiz, you know, a fat bad. I was like, what the fuck? Like, Jesus Christ. And I think a lot of them had egg on their face after AJ lost to Ruiz. Favor Ward, but only slightly. I think Canelo put up a go. Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Canelo, it wouldn't be like a schooling, but Canelo, I think, would lose to Andre Ward. I think stylistically, Ward would have him. If it was my two eye sockets are broken, my jaw and my teeth were out, my nose was stained, I was not stopping until I was knocked out or worse. Saunders state. Yeah, well, that, you know, things like that, they have a way of coming back to bite you. Those things. They really do. Superintendent Chalmers. You can buy Echo Falls on Amazon. Yeah, you can, yeah, but it's like, they're like a crate of 6. And I've never tried it, so I don't want to, and it's like 40 quid. I don't want to buy 6 bottles of Echo Falls if they're not nice, if you know what I mean. You know? So I kind of rather have one, try it, and let me see how it is, rather than buy 6 of them for 40 quid and, you know, pour them all down the drain, and there goes 40 quid. I could be giving that 40 quid to Mateo or someone like that. Other than AJ Fury, what fights would you like to see for the second half of the year? Joyce Usyk, definitely. Joyce versus Usyk. I'd like to see a Coley versus Breedis. It's a good fight. Who else? I'd love to see the trilogy fight between, I don't know if we get it this year though, Chocolatito and Estrada. I don't know if we'll see it this year though. Who else would I like to see? For the unification purpose, I would like to see Canelo and Abney, or not Abney, fucking Yildirim, David, or the guy, Calaplant. Like to see that. Who else would I like to see? I'm just trying to think here. Those are kind of the fights I'd really like to see, to be honest with you, mate. Like I'm just kind of them. We're getting some good fights like this year alone, so they're the kind of fights I'd like to see. I think that's kind of really it. Like I'm just trying to think who else. Like, because we're tempted to get a lot of these good fights. I'd obviously like to see Teofimo Lopez against someone else at 138, like Garcia, Haney, one of them guys, Tank Davis. But I think that that could be a losing battle, to be honest with you. You can buy one for $385. Really? I'll have to go back onto Amazon and have a look. Perhaps it's different in Ireland, though. You see, like, I Googled it, and there was a few off licenses that had it listed but not stocked. And then there was a few places in the UK that would sell it, but they'll only sell it to the UK and ship it to the UK, so I couldn't get it shipped over here. So I said, look, I am obviously not meant to try Echo Falls, so be it. And I don't have any plans to go to the UK anytime soon, unless something comes up, in which case, and if I do go over to the UK, I will go into Tesco, and then I'll go and I'll sit in my hotel room and with me missus, and we'll have a drink of Echo Falls. And I'll make sure she tries it first. She can give me the idea to see what it's like. And if he tells me it's nice, then I won't drink it because she's got shit taste to drink. Sanchez versus Dubois would be a nice fight. Yeah. Frank Sanchez, that was a bizarre fight he had last night. Daniel Dubois. We need to see how Dubois looks against Dinu. We need to see how he looks against Dinu. But Frank Sanchez, the oldest 28-year-old I've ever seen. Who wins? Char versus Lovejoy. Oh my God. Char versus Lovejoy this weekend. I have to big up Dell. If Del Boy is watching this, shout out to Blue Collar Sports TV. If you haven't been there, check his channel out. I telling you now, man, I will be watching that fight, doing a review. Manuel Char hasn't fought in nearly 4 years, but I'm telling you now, he will definitely beat Christopher. Christopher Lovejoy has one of the fakest padded resumes I've ever seen, but he's such a chancer. He'll always have a place on this channel. I want to see that fight. And if Manuel Char has regressed so much that Lovejoy makes it competitive, I mean, put it like this: Stavern, who fought Trevor Bryan, he'd have beaten Christopher Lovejoy. We'll have to wait and see. I'll keep you in the dark about that, but you never know. Keep you in the dark about that. Taking an L. I'll keep you in the dark. Mark will know what that means. Dubois fighting this soon after the eye injury probably meant it wasn't an orbital fracture. Yeah, very soon. He got that injury in basically December, end of November. And he's fighting in June? Very soon. Very soon. Lovejoy doesn't stand a chance. No, but just Lovejoy for just purely entertainment value. I'll watch Christopher Lovejoy just because I want to be entertained, and for some reason, Lovejoy, in whatever way, he just does entertain me. That's a good question. Other than yourself, who is the top 3 boxing channels on YouTube? Right. So you take me out of the equation. Oh, there's so many. Honestly, my favorite is Chris Andre. Chris Andre is my personal favorite. I think the way he breaks a fight down, the way he speaks, everything about Chris Andre, he's probably my favorite channel right now. Just the way he breaks fights down, his IQ of the sport, his knowledge is just second to none. And me personally, I would have to say Chris Andre is my personal favorite. Second would be Hatman, because I've been subscribed to Hatman for many years. Oh God, so many years I've been subscribed to Hatman. Probably the first channel. No, he is the first YouTube channel I ever watched in terms of boxing content. And by the way, if you've not, check out Chris Andre's channel. There's the link in the chat. If you haven't already subscribed to Chris Andre, I encourage you to subscribe to Chris Andre. There's the link there to his channel. My personal favorite, the best, my opinion, the best analyst on YouTube. Hatman would be second. And ooh, you see, I've Ade, Mark, and Dell. I listen to the three of them all the time. And they're kind of like joint third, because I like all three of them equally. And I wouldn't really say, you know, you're better than this or you're better. I like the three of them. But for me, Chris Andre, definitely. Yeah. Best boxing analyst, in my opinion. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Think he's my personal favorite. There's so many good channels, though. Like, I listen to loads. Like, I listen to, you know, Right Hook Boxing. I listen to Boxing Squares, Broken Nose. Jesus, who else do I listen to? I have to go on my subscription list and see how many I listen to. There's loads of different channels I listen to. D, obviously, Speaker Mind Sports Talk. I do listen to Beats. I do listen to Boxing Beats. I haven't been on his panel. I've never been on his panel because I'm always too busy, but I do listen to Beats, listen to his live streams. Beats is great, very knowledgeable. Knows so much about boxing. Now, I listen to loads of people there, but for my money, Chris Andre, my personal favorite. I think he's fantastic. You know, absolutely fantastic. What happened to Boxing Gossip? It's a weird one. I don't know. He literally finished making videos just before I started making them. And it was just sudden. And I don't know why, because his channel was doing good. I think at the time Boxing Gossip stopped, he had about 7,000 subscribers, 8,000. So it wasn't like his channel wasn't going anywhere. It was. I couldn't tell you what happened, but I think his name was Tom. And I like Boxing Gossip. You know, he definitely had a good little channel going. I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. I really couldn't tell you what happened to Boxing Gossip. It was a bizarre one. It was an absolute bizarre one, because like that, he had a very good channel. He was doing good work. It's crazy. I honestly couldn't tell you what happened to Boxing Gossip. I'd love it if he came back. I'd still listen to his videos. I still found Tom very entertaining and very enjoyable. But maybe he just wanted to go down other avenues, other roads. Maybe he felt that this was just a hobby, and maybe it was becoming, maybe it was becoming a hobby that he just grew out of. You know, maybe he didn't see any future in it. Maybe it was just talking about this. I don't know. But anyway, I wasn't doing videos when he stopped. I started just after he stopped. So I couldn't tell you. He shut down everything. I think he shut his Twitter down, his Patreon. He shut everything down. Joe always thought about starting the channel, but there's already a ton. That subject's covered. But the thing is, right, I thought that too. And I just decided, why not give it a go? Like, why not just give it a go? I was like, what have I got to lose? You know, sort of way. Like, I just was like, what have I got to lose? You know? And that was it. I just think, what have I got to lose? And that was all. That was it. And well, it took me, right? It took me six months. Yeah, it took me 6 months to get 100 subscribers. All right. And in the last month, I think I've gained like 400 subscribers. Because I'm at like I'll tell you exactly how many I'm at now. I hit 4K 2 weeks ago, and right now I have 4,154. So in 2 weeks, that's 154 subs. It took me 6 months to get 100 subs when I started. So, you know, if I haven't mentioned Boxing Squares, apologies, but he is one of my favorites as well. Heavyweight boxing Squares, perfect. You know, match made in heaven. No one knows more about heavyweights than him. You know. Who else was it? Oh yeah, Carmen was saying there. I think he got sick. Someone reached out to him and he said he was sick. Oh really? Oh no. Well, if that's the case, I hope he's okay. I hope he's all right. He took his career took off, and his girlfriend wanted more time with him. Plus, I think I think some trolls got to him. I felt like a core to him in the end, and he was no longer enjoying it. That's sad if that's the case. I've been very lucky. I've been very, very, very lucky that I've never had any issues with that. And touch wood, I don't. Never had any issues with that. If his career outside of YouTube took off, fair play. Fair play. If he did, fair play. And if his girlfriend, you see, my situation is quite lucky that, I'm going into detail, but I'm quite lucky with my situation there. But my career outside of YouTube, that ain't gonna take off because I'm just doing this for the sake of it. What I do outside of YouTube for the sake of it. The whole goal is something in journalism. It could be anything. That's the goal. That's the end goal. I'd say pick a division like Boxing Square does with the heavyweights. Yep. That's actually a very good idea as well. I like covering everything though. You have to invest a hell of a lot of time to have a good channel to cover all relative fights. You do. You absolutely do. Like, that's one thing I always like. People have come to me and they've said, like, yo, if I would start a channel, what do I need? What do you need to do? Do you need this, this, this? I'd always tell them you don't need much. You need a camera, whether that be your phone or whether that be an actual camera. Bit of lighting if you want. It depends if you want to go on camera or not. But with lighting, if you do, if you don't get it, well, you can use a mic. What I'm using for this live stream is a set of headphones, so it's not like I'm using much. But you don't need much, but just be consistent. And that's the thing. Like, I see people who reach out to me and they're like, "Can you give me a shout out?" And it's like, you've done like 2 videos in 2 weeks, and you're like, "I'm not growing." It's like, that's why you're not growing, because they don't just come. Like, you have to build. It's like the saying, if you build it, they'll come. So you have to build it. So, that's the kind of way I look at it. Like, you have to build it before that. You can't just make a video and expect, like, oh, there's one video, I'll have 10 subs overnight. It doesn't work like that. It's different when you gain. Like, for me, I could probably do that, but not for someone starting out with like 50 subs. It doesn't work like that. You have to just cover it. Like, that's why, like, I always made sure, and I still do it, whenever news comes, straight on it. Straight on that news broke, right? Straight on it, make a video. Straight on it, make a video. Always do that. Limo's fantasizing about starting a channel. Like, the market for it, it's becoming so saturated. You need to have a really tidy plan for it, I think. I would say definitely do it. I put it off for so long because I always felt like I could do it, but I felt like I needed this, that, and the other, and I put it off for ages. I wish I didn't. What's saying that if I didn't, maybe I wouldn't have, got the help I had. But I would say just do it. There's no, like, some people worry, like, how do I stand out? I don't do much different than Hat Mandel, and most guys do. You just need to, like, I love doing the WTF videos, which I have one coming. Don't worry, I will have one coming soon. I love doing that. Like, do little things that make you stand out, but I don't think I do anything really different than most. I just think that it's hard to kind of say, like, because I couldn't tell you either, like, what I've done different, but I definitely give it a go. But just, I think so many people expect too much too soon. Like, I done a solid from January 2019 to November, which is when I hit 1,000. I done so many videos, and I was just always like, they'll come, and they do. That's the main thing. Can tell you really enjoy the channel by the amount of content you put up. That's definitely your strong point in the busy market. Yeah. Like, I literally just do, like, I plan my, like, free nights when I'm not seeing someone or going around. Then I literally am like, right, what news do I have? I message Big Dan, who makes my thumbnails. Shout out to him. Does great work with them. And he knows kind of what I want in thumbnails now. I'm like, this is what I want. He makes it. And then I talk about it. Upload the video. You have to, the hardest decision I have is which intro am I going to put in. Am I going to put in where's the piss bottle or no piss bottle? That's the one or the other. Remember the channel with the young guy something he was a full-on troll with the young guy. Who's that? Who's the channel with the guy, young something? Oh, I heard of the guy. I was like, yeah, I heard of that. Do I make much money via my YouTube channel? I'll tell you now. I'll tell you now how much. Not really, to be honest with you. Some months vary, mate, to be honest with you, and I don't really mind. I'll show you this now in 2 secs. Some months vary, to be honest with you. It's kind of hit and miss, but you normally get in between the 200. You normally make over 200 a month normally. It's been growing exponentially. Like it used to be like between like 100 and something this. Now it's a little bit over 200 a month. And if this will load, I'll show you. I'll bring the screen share in and I'll show you the analytics. The analytics. So there we go. Wait there 2 secs. Waiting for this thing to load. And I'll show, okay, that should be there. Yeah, that should be there for you. So, come on. There we go. So it has to take into account a few things, but in the last 28 days, 150 quid. Says it there. It has to take into account a few things, but that's really kind of it. In the last 28 days, obviously you have your stuff there. It shows you kind of subscription, stuff like that. Shows you, if you go on there, you see like where the super chats are. Just bring that up there. That'll bring you ads and memberships and stuff like that. So you see like all the kind of super chats that have come in the last few days and stuff like that. So it's kind of stuff like that. That's mainly it. But yeah, that's the answer. Cut a long story short, that's kind of what it is there. That's what it is there. What goals have you got? Goals for where you'd like to take the channel in the future? Well, for now, I just want to hit between 7 and 8K by the end of the year. That'd be a goal I kind of like. That's the kind of goal for now. Obviously, in the future, I'd like to use this channel to get, you know, obviously I want to keep doing interviews. I'd love to have guests on, like, you know, I don't do a lot of panels on these live streams, but like kind of a bit like what Rob Tebbutt does with the Boxing Social podcast, something like that. That's kind of what I'd like to do on here. But for me, what I'd love to do is I'd love to use this to get myself onto a platform, you know, whether it be radio, whether it be, you know, reporting, whatever. Obviously, I'd still do this, but I'd love it to be something. I'd love to have this and something else as well, you know, like another platform. It'd be great. I'd love that. I think it'd be amazing. So you never know. I know it's getting a little bit bigger, and I know I'm getting more people recognizing the channel and stuff like that. So you know, having more people kind of reach out to us, which is crazy. Because I'm not used to all that. Like I've never really been used to any of that. So it's weird. And yeah, that's 150 now. It's not updating real time, so it's probably more than that as it stands. I think this month alone, I've already made like 50 quid, you know, this month alone. See, what YouTube does is, right, it has, when you hit 1,000 subs and you get monetized, you have to hit a certain target. It's not a target, but you have to hit a certain amount of money before they pay you. So you have to hit 70 quid a month in Ireland before they pay out. Now, if you don't hit it in the month, you don't lose it. It just means you have to wait until the following month to hit it. So you just have to keep waiting. But I hit it every month. So it's in around that. It's between like 200 to 300 a month, give or take, you know, views, news, CPM, stuff like that. It's give or take all that. Big up to Ra. Big up to you, man. I'd like to see you get some credit. That's what I'd love to do. Yeah, get credentials to attend shows. That's the plan, and that's the goal. Obviously, with travel and shit like that, it's really tough now because of, you know, quarantine and stuff like that. You know, it's tough now. And am I still planning to go to AJ Fear if I need to get a vaccine? I'm not getting the vaccine. That's my choice, but I'm sure I'll find a way. I'm just not. I'm not doing it. It's just not for me. So no, I ain't doing it. But I will go. I'll find a way. I will go. 150 a month for a labor you love isn't too bad. If they took that away tomorrow, I wouldn't give two you know whats. I'd still make videos as much as I do now. Wouldn't bother me. wouldn't bother me in the slightest, mate. Wouldn't bother me in the slightest. But lads and lassies, what I'm gonna do? Been at this for an hour and 20. I've got a few things to do before tomorrow because I got work on tomorrow. But I'm gonna call it here. Gonna drop a little link there in the chat. That's to Ade's stream. So I'm gonna rock over there and listen to that for a bit because I got a few errands to do as well now before anything. So for now, I'm gonna leave you. If you could on the way out, smash the like button. We got 100 and no, well, we've had loads in the chat today, but we have only, how many likes do we have? But you know, it helps. The likes to dislike ratio help. But we got how many? 50 likes. If you could smash the like button on the way out, I'd really, really, really appreciate that. And I'd really appreciate more info on that. Thanks for that. Yeah. That's actually really cool. That's actually good to know. That's very good to know. I'm not going to read that, but that's very good to know. So big up to all the guys. Ade's been out, has been incredible with the. No, I think Ade. I don't think he follows it as thoroughly as some of us. Like he likes Michael Connellan, but I don't think he's ever seen Stephen Fulton fight. If he saw Stephen Fulton fight, he'd know all about him. But big up to Limo, big up to Graham, big up to Joe if he's still there. Wherever, I big up to Joe every time. But lads and lassies, for now I'm going to leave you. Going to make some videos this evening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll see you then, lads and lassies. Peace.